Okay, guys. Hopefully this is going to be the last time I put the little 5-inch back together. Instead of putting the GPS on top of the battery, like I said in my last video, I actually just mounted it on the back. I had all sorts of problems with that. The first problem was this prop was hitting it. It'll probably move around in flight. Prop will hit it, it'll crash. Hopefully it just won't be real soon. So I really don't like that at all. I've been looking for an 18 millimeter by 18 millimeter M10 GPS module with compass, but they don't seem to be found. So far I haven't found one. But I really do want to put this thing totally to bed because it's a winter 2023 project. It's not finished yet, in my opinion. And I'm glad I didn't rush any of it because I think this is a pretty good platform, in my humble opinion. May work out to be an excellent platform. I think all the bugs are out of it. Again, I would like to have a 18 by 18 CAN bus M10 GPS module, or 20 by 20 millimeter. Either one would work. 18 would be best. Or someone tell me why the H743 wing mini and the slim don't want to work with a serial M10 GPS over a UART. But I have ordered another H743 slim, mini for this one. The DFU button is broke on it. I'm having to jumper it with tweezers when I want to reflash it. And I'm going to use the new mini flight controller to keep troubleshooting the problem with the other GPS. You guys can find a solution and go on. That's hobbyist. I've worked in electronics my whole life. I can't just let it sit without finding out the reason and getting a fix for it. It should work. Others say it works. Even on an H743 Slim, they say it works. I want mine to work. But you've seen my troubleshooting. Some people out there have told me I can't troubleshoot worth a hoot. But I think we see that this turned out to only switching the GPS. It went from 8 satellites to 20, which is what I need in the backyard. So I've got thick skin. So I worked for the public for 30 years anyway, of my 50 years plus in electronics, directly for the public, computer stores and stuff. So this is completely ready for a new maiden flight. I may have to rotate that compass module right there 90 degrees and maybe flip it, but I'll know that in a few minutes when I put it up on Mission Planner and rotate it around and see which direction it thinks it's pointing. And after that, we're going to go take it on that Maiden that I've been trying to do for so many years. Not years, but weeks, actually. So the first thing I have to reprove with the 4th GPS compass module that's been on this platform, and it won't be the last. It's just too big to leave. I can't believe I won't get in trouble with prop strikes at some point. Way away from me and knee-high water with alligators. So I've got to prove the 4th of 5, hopefully, GPS modules that's been on this platform with a return to lodge. And I really don't like to drive and stuff. So I did one in the backyard, or actually at first I just did a flight in the backyard. I wanted to see what kind of sats I was hooking up, how this thing worked in loiter mode, etc. So I took it out in the backyard and I almost flew out of
1300 milliamp hour 6S battery. I think I might have gone above 400 feet. I'm not sure. I was well above 40, so I'll have to figure out this scale. And it flew from what, 1804 to like, whoops, right click and show point values. Now we can point at it. From 1804 to 1809, so 5 minutes on that little battery. I tested loiter through here, and then I just decided to take it up into the sky. As long as I could see it well, as long as it seemed to be loitering well, which I didn't think it was really loitering well, and we'll talk about that, and we'll look at that, even out at the big field in the future. Looks like I took it up. What's this? 420, 430 feet. Oops. Yeah, that's about right. This is down in here where I was staying in the backyard and up over the house. That's right, about 50 feet. That should be about right. So you can see I took it up in steps here. And then one last one. And at the top, I did a 360, nice slow rotation. I didn't turn on the run cam orange. The lock snell did not run. I've got it set where it only records on the receiver, and I didn't take the receiver outside and turn it on. And then I landed almost at fail safe. So 5 minutes on that little battery. It won't be a 5-minute freestyle. That's why I bought those batteries. They're supposed to be my testing batteries and stuff where there's not a lot of weight. Plus, they're the little punchy ones I'm going to do freestyle on because they're 60C, I think. Let me look. No, they're actually 1400 milliamp hour batteries rated at 150C. So those are my freestyle. I think I only have 2 of those. And then I've got the 4000 milliamp hour lithium ion for long range. Anyway, things went well. As you can see, there's not a lot of craziness. Look at the battery. Voltage. Flew it from 25.2 down to 22.76. I think my failsafe is 22.5 for that LiPo battery. I know I've got my battery failsafe on it set at 22.5 volts, so I was within 0.2 of failsafing. And that's why I stopped. I had not tested the return to launch, and the return to launch was set for 150 feet. I still want to do the flight up over the trees and stuff, but I wasn't ready to test return to launch. That's why I brought it in and landed it. And I couldn't see what my battery and voltage and stuff was. But that's the data flash files, the only telemetry I got from that flight. I didn't get any videos or anything. Here's the current. Not sure what was going on right in here. Current sure jumped up there for a second. Twice. Oh, actually more than twice. Right here is 6.3, 7.9, 15.5. 13.4, 7.99, not too worried about that, or these in here at 6.47. In general, it ran about 5, and I haven't calibrated this yet, but I think it'll be right in there. In this flight down here, I did get some yaw realignments. They didn't seem to be errors as much as messages. Yep. I got no GPS glitches this time. None, nada, no. Which was fine with me. I got glitches with the other ones. GPS, number of satellites. Again, I walked it out and then finally took it up around 400 feet. Didn't have any telemetry of any kind. I guess I might have had it CRSF to my radio, but I didn't have glasses on. I couldn't have read that. So I had nothing for that flight. I was going to read it after the fact in the OSD from the walk snail. Wow, that didn't work out. So you can see I started out with 12 sats in the backyard. I started out in loiter mode. I took off in loiter mode. I don't want that thing. That thing's zippy, son. Especially that 150C battery on it, 6S. It decides to go doing zippy stuff on its own in this backyard. It's protected. It's going to hit a tree and fall to the ground, most likely. That's why I do a lot of stuff in this there. Or it's going to hit the house and break a window, and me and the landlord will have to settle that one. But it's not going to do a lot. It's probably not even going to fly off where I can't find it. The worst that could happen is I have to get the tree cutters when they come in November. They are going to cut those trees. Added a 4th one to the mix. But they're so busy, it's November before they can get to it. So satellites kept going up. I kind of moved out up above the roof and kept moving away from myself. So more and more where it was open, more and more open sky. Even before, this was just over the house, low altitude. Matter of fact, if I superimpose the altitude on it, we'll do a barometric altitude. There you go. So you see, this was just out over the house at 50-ish feet to right here. Just so it would be in front of me. I didn't have to crane my neck so much looking up. Then I started moving it away and up, like I say, in plateaus. You can see it started picking up more and more sats. And the sat count, like I say, was about 12. It didn't take no time for it to lock up. Pow! About the time it powers up, it locks up with that one. Sweet. This is getting it up in the air. Here we're at 16. Here we're at 17. Ish, 17, 16, yeah, it's going to have to be 17. And you can see it does that. It always does. It gains and loses them. Here we're at 18. It was up to 19 and then dropped back down to 18 fairly steady before I started moving up in altitude. Now, I've always known, and you all have always known here at the house, because of the tree cover around me, as I go up in altitude, I'm going to reveal more and more satellites because more and more of the sky is unobscured by trees just getting above them. So when I broke out the top, you see, I ran up to 22 satellites, which should give me an HDOP that is just really tight. Let's look at that real quick. Oops. That's GSHDOP. There we go. Wow. Didn't want to paint there at first. So 1.2, about the time I took off with 12 satellites, it was down to 1.05. when I was working over the house, it was down as much as, we'll mediate this stuff, down to 0.83. Kind of broke up here, got as low as 1.1 here for some reason, but still mediating this, trying to get a middle value. 0.9. Down in here when I started getting altitude, 0.66. Here's a 0.56 HDOP. 0.66. Oops. 0.67. So that gives me the confidence that this platform is positioning itself. The GPS is now working, and there were no glitches, no nothing. Vibrations in the platform. X. This is 10. Remember back when we were doing all that, building these things, it was supposed to be less than 30 or some crap like that, but way down there. Y, highest is a 20. Average down in here is 6. Z, highest is like 12-ish. Average is 8. And I'll get more and more where I understand these and can know immediately if there's a problem. Let's see, ESC, where are we at? ESC 1, ESC 2, ESC, ESC 4. Look at RPM. On top of each other. This essentially gives me two graphs. Is that front and back? Should all four of those be on top of each other? The separation of those bothers me, but the fact that two of them are in one group and two of them are in a second group makes me think, boy, what was this here? For, what is this one? The red one up here is 1. Calls it 0, but 1. Computer people like me say 0, but it's really 1. Here's some more spikes. This green one, blue one, red one, yellow one, another blue one. Interesting. Just like it dropped out completely. It's probably a bad data point. Overall here, what I see, throwing these away down here, is two groups of 2. Don't understand it yet. Going to have to get more and more data, see it more and more, do more and more research and learning, and I will conquer that. Other than that, that's all I really got from that first flight. 5-minute flight. I didn't do a GoPro on my head or nothing. So I brought it back inside and made some changes, made the return to launch 30 feet, and charged the battery again. Took the Walk Snell receiver outside, put the GoPro hat on my head, and took it back out for a second flight. Now, I turned on the run cam orange, but I never hit the record button. I'm not using checklists. This is just all off the cuff, and I'm not being very strict about it all and stuff. Just kind of helter-skelter, really. So I did get Walk Snell video with OSD and GoPro footage from the second flight, which scared the bejesus out of me again. It always does here, where I'm having to fly in such a tight area. But let's look at that stuff. So I took it out to test the compass with RTL and prepare for tomorrow's second Maiden. Armed in loader mode. Took off in loader mode. It starts backing up. The first flight, it moved right and left too. A lot of that was in the backyard. I didn't like the loiter. If I got such a low HDOP, why are not the figures and the position estimates much, much more precise? I've had better loiter and other platforms. Anyway, so we're going to take it to the other side of the house and do a return to launch. And I can barely see it there. So we moved the platform and then we moved me. So I've got the power lines that come into the house right here off this end of the house. I was trying to keep it below 30 feet, the return to launch altitude I had set. I didn't succeed at that. And it's apparent. I had to pop it up there because of those power lines. But right on the other side is the main feeders from the road, so I took it to the left to get out of that way. And because I didn't want to mess with those, knew it would be above them, I flipped the return to launch right there, and it turns around and off it goes. It looks to me like it's headed for the trees. And the only thing I could do was just let it hit them, and hopefully it'll fall to the ground instead of being up in the tree. So the old man's trying to get back to where he can see what's going on. It came back 20 feet to the left of its takeoff point. But part of what I wanted to do here, the return to launch on this, being nudged around, worked perfectly. Not the T1
All
Ranger.
right.
Pretty cool, huh? And don't those motors, I'm just pleased with the way the motors sound right now. You can hear it's a constant frequency. There doesn't seem to be any oscillations. That's the way they're supposed to sound. Let's look at the walk snail. I've been reinstalling software and stuff, so I've got to redo my OSD position. It seems to be flying about 5 volts, 16 satellites, 17, 18. That's what I need in this hole back here with very little view of the sky to start with. Unobstructed view. And winter's not so bad with the leaves off the trees. And I'm at what, 20 feet right now? 18, 19 satellites. 5 amps. Loiter mode. Nice HDOP. 6.8. Stop for the power lines. And you can see right there, the top of the pole is where they come in from the road. So I just moved a little on the other side of that, went to the left, and right here decided here's a good place as any, and returned to launch. It didn't look this good to me. It went, that limb right there is pretty close to. It was quite a bit, in my humble opinion, left of takeoff point. But as I come over, I started nudging it. You can see here how far over it was. You can almost see down the side of the left side of the house. There I go, starting to move it over. I'm going to have to test that on the T1 Ranger again. The T1 Ranger would not do that in Q return to launch. So I now have the confidence to take off here in loiter mode, fly over the tops of the trees out into the orchard, even drop down near the ground and hit return to launch, or have a battery fail-safe. I haven't got my radio fail-safe set up yet. Have a battery fail-safe and be confident that the platform is going to come back to me over the tops of the trees. And I am not confident, or was I ever on any of my platforms, that it would always return to launch at the same place, and they've always been off. This was more than I've seen on the flame wheel and the other quads I've had. Then 3 to 5 feet was about as far as I've seen it land off the takeoff spot in the past years. But if it comes back over the trees and into my sight, that's what I'm looking for. That'll be sufficient for me to nudge it around, and I just tested that, nudging it around in return to launch mode. So as you can kind of see in the picture there, it's getting dark on me. And Pam's got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, some things to do at AB Tech, etc., etc. Going to go out with another teacher for lunch. She might not be home 3 to 4, so I've got a day to myself tomorrow. I decided maybe going to the big field and doing a big maiden would be better than just popping up over the trees here, and might be more prudent for me to do one more sort of does all this work properly test before I start jumping up in the air here and flying away and exploring places without worrying that if I flip return to launch, will it come back and appear in the sky above the hole in my little sheltered area here. I'm confident if it does at least come where I can see it even at 400 feet, I can nudge it around as it comes down, landing without any problems whatsoever. So I do have confidence to fly here. I just think it's prudent to do one more test at the big field. Safe than sorry's always worked well. I am completely relieved today that the mystery of why does the UART-based compass M10 type not work really here. The first compass that was on it was the M8Q5883, worked fine. UART-wise, didn't have any problems with it. Decided to step up to the M10Q5883 and SATs actually went down. GPS glitches went up. I fought it there and bought the Flywoo. Flywoo GPS did exactly the same thing. There was no major differences in them. None whatsoever. Put the original M10Q5883 on a normal flight controller, not these little minis and slims, with the full-size flight controller, I would call them, and it works perfectly. Now, what the hell is that? Then finally decided to test, is it really something with the UARTs? And just, I'm missing information. I don't have all the information I need, and ordered the CAN bus M10. By the way, the barometer in it is not disabled like the documentation says. The platform has 2 barometers in it right now, and in order to affix it to the platform, I had to mess with the foam underneath, so that barometer might not be out of the breeze from the prop, so we could have some bad future problems. Saw some little quirks out of it tonight that might be from turbulence, but that GPS fairly fixed the problems. We're getting close to 20 sats here in the backyard now. That's completely enough for me to get locked up enough to have confident loiter and do the flying around here. But God, has it been a long troubleshooting ordeal. People stuck with me. Boy, I got a lot of information from people. Help. It's great. But as I've already said in this video, I'm going to continue to work on why does that do that? Because just from an electronic standpoint, I want to know. Anyway, so I'm going to use the rest of my time tonight to set up a nice Maiden tomorrow. And we're going to take the little 5-inch out and christen it tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you so much.